It is Saturday, January 3rd. The transfer portal is officially in full swing. We've got a ton of Michigan Wolverines in that portal, and we do finally have a coaching staff put together that apparently just got to Ann Arbor yesterday. So they're trying to get things sorted out with the guys on their roster, meeting with those guys, retaining them. It's a big mess right now, and to be frank, they're pretty far behind because other coaches have been doing this for weeks. Other coaches have been kind of dealing with other teams in the portal, trying to snatch away their guys. So Michigan hasn't been able to do any of that, obviously, because they haven't had a coaching staff put together. So, like I said, they are behind, but they're getting after it. The coaching hires today, if you missed them, have went official. It is Alex Whittingham coaching linebackers. He spent a lot of times with the Chiefs. He did coach linebackers, coaching Nick Bolton for a while. He's coached D line. He's worked with the secondary. He's been with Steve Spagnuolo for a long time. And that is a guy that I would want around my Michigan defense. So a lot of people are going to play it off as underqualified, like coach's friend, coach's family, whatever. Okay, I think he's a good coach. The other one is Gennaro Guilford coming over from BYU to be the cornerbacks coach. One thing you'll notice, kind of like a recurring theme, all the big losses we had in the portal, big with quotations, they've been at linebacker, they've been at defensive back, and we didn't have guys filling those roles. The other ones have been at offensive line. And I always say something. I say, you come to Michigan for the block M. You don't come for Sharon Moore. You don't come for Grant Newsom. But if you're an offensive lineman, you might have came for Sharon Moore, okay? The guy coached two Joe Moore award-winning offensive lines. He was breeding offensive linemen. If they came for Sharon Moore, fully understand that, and I understand why they would dip. That being said, I do want to get into the actual portal list, who's leaving, who might not be leaving that is in the portal. So before I get into it, give this video a like, sub to the channel if you haven't, turn on notifications because I'm going to be pumping out updates. Haven't been able to update quite as much lately because I just went on the most long, tedious road trip of my life to the Orange Bowl and to the Citrus Bowl to watch Michigan versus Texas. It was a fun trip. A lot of driving because I went to a lot of cities and I didn't want to buy a lot of flights. But let's get into the actual subject of this video, which is the Michigan transfer portal. Got a list here behind me. We're going to go position by position. Quarterbacks, Jaden Davis, Alex Warren, Davis Warren, Alex Warren. He's a singer. Anyway, nothing too surprising. Jaden Davis. Don't know if there's anywhere in the FBS that he can start. Davis Warren might end up at a group of five school. Might. I don't know. They are both FCS quarterbacks to me. Running back CJ Hester. Been so long that I even forgot he was on the team. Understandable. Jasper Parker. Understandable. He was never going to get to play. He was going to be buried. If he's behind a Bryson Cudzall, who is apparently not leaving, he's behind a Micah Capana, who we haven't seen enter the portal. Justice Haynes might come back. He's definitely behind a guy like Jordan Marshall. Savion Hyder's coming in. So if you're a running back and you want to dip for Michigan, don't blame me at all. I'm actually shocked to hear that Bryson Cudzall's not leaving. I love the guy. I'm happy to have him on the team. Probably, if I had to guess, going to be running back 4 next year. So I would understand if he left. That's all I'm saying. I like the guy. I'm happy to have him around. Wide receivers, Frederick Moore, Samaj Morgan. No surprises there. We've known about Fred Moore for quite some time. Backwards James, we thought was entering the portal mid-year. I thought he was like a healthy scratch for a couple games. Maybe he was injured. Kind of went back and forth. Don't really know. Don't think Michigan fans are too upset there with the wide receiver position. Offensive line that's where the hit came. Okay. First it was Connor Jones. We said, okay, no big deal. It's Connor Jones. He's going to go start at like BYU or something. Respect. Caden Strayhorn. Okay. This is where I thought like that actually makes sense. Like if I were him, I would want to sit and develop at Michigan with a great offensive line coach. But at the same time, he's the kind of guy that if he wants to go to the NFL, he's going to have to play center. And he's probably seeing Jake Garnera and saying, that's the center. If I want the best shot to play in the NFL, I got to play center and it's not going to be here. Sounded like a solid thought process for me until Jake Garnera a couple hours later enters the transfer portal. And I think this is the biggest hit Michigan has taken so far is Jake Garnera. Obviously, Andrew Sprague entered as well. Coming into the year, I thought Andrew Sprague was going to be Michigan's best offensive lineman. It didn't play out like that. He did underperform. He does have the potential. He's a massive body. He does have a nasty streak. Word is both those guys are looking at Texas and Missouri. Missouri obviously would be following Chip Lindsey. They would know all the plays. They would know the offense perfectly. If they went to Texas, well, it's Texas. Steve Sarkisian is in need of some offensive linemen. I think Sprague was initially very high on Texas anyway. I think they might have been in his top three, and Michigan beat him out. But looks like both those guys could end up at Texas. They could end up at Missouri. And I said this once, I'll say it again. They could have been at Michigan for the relationship with Sharon Moore, with the development of Sharon Moore. And if they want to leave once those relationships are gone, those bridges are burned, I fully understand that. I am hearing a little bit of buzz about Jake Garnera could possibly stay. I think it's a slippery slope. Even with new coaches, once guys enter the portal, it's pretty rare to see them come back. It happens. It happens. But all I'm telling you is probably don't get your hopes up. That is all we've got for the offensive side of the ball. It seems like a lot. I see a lot of people panicking. Right now, I'm counting a total of 15, 16 guys in the portal. You got to keep in mind, last year we had 25 or 26. A lot of guys in the portal. We don't even have that this year. It feels a little worse because it's like starting offensive linemen. At the same time, you got to realize for a coaching change, what we're seeing is not that bad. Do want to move on to the defensive side of the ball. We've got Eno Etta in the portal on the defensive line. We've got Devon Baxter in the portal on the defensive line. Honest me here, just throwing this out there, don't really think either one of them were ever going to be Michigan quality players. The guy that you're like, I want that guy on the field. He needs to be on the field. He's making plays for us. If those guys were playing, it was always kind of be like, they're our third guy. If they're a second guy, we're kind of in trouble. They're not really making plays. They're just out there. And, Etta, obviously a little bit more potential than a guy like Devon Baxter, a little bit more athletic, but just never really fit into his role with all the weight gain and moving inside. And things just didn't work out for him at Michigan. Either of those guys, I don't think either is a loss, and I don't blame either for leaving. The linebacker is where a lot of people are going to be sweating a little bit. That is Cole Sullivan, who I'm told is at Oklahoma visiting today. So if that goes right, and to be completely honest, I think he'd be a very good fit for their defense. Michigan could be playing against Cole Sullivan next year at Oklahoma. And they play a 4-3 that I think he would be the perfect fit for that Sam linebacker. They've got a safety right now in Daniels. I'm blanking on the first name, but his last name's Daniels. He is like 6'5", 240, plays safety, plays outside linebacker. Cole Sullivan is like perfectly in the mold of him. He can play inside too. But Kendall Daniels, I think he would be the perfect replacement for Kendall Daniels at Oklahoma. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he stays at Michigan. I'm hearing that he's still having talks with Michigan. He hasn't ruled them out. And I would say that Michigan's chances likely do increase bringing Alex Whittingham and, actually having a linebackers coach. Because whenever he entered the portal, we did not have one. I don't know that we had in lock and key that we were going to have one. I don't know that hire was told to him. So we'll see how hiring Alex Whittingham changes that. If it does change that, maybe he still leaves and enters the portal. Nobody really knows his thought process other than him. Defensive backs, Elijah Dotson, Zeke Berry, Jaden Mangham, all contributors, guys that I thought were going to play again next year. I think Zeke Berry is the fans don't like him because he gives up splash plays. He really does. But he's a fluid athlete. And I'm in the business of evaluating film, right? I look at it and I'm like, wow, there's so much there that you can't teach, so much that's really rare. The early comps that he got to Mikey Sainristil were because of his fluidity, because of his hips, because of the way that he moved. That's still there. He could still be a really good player. That being said, he's not right now. He's an okay player, a serviceable player who has really high highs, but a couple low lows, and we've seen both ends of that spectrum. Elijah Dotson is the one most people care the most about just because, one, he's a young freshman, he's super talented, good enough to play as a freshman, and he came in from Belleville with Bryce Underwood. So how could that impact Underwood's decision? I do not know. I think Elijah Dotson's going to be a good player. I think he's going to do really well somewhere for someone. Am I panicked over losing him? No, not really. If we're just looking at this year, yeah, he was good, but he wasn't a standout. He was Michigan's cornerback 4 or 5 in terms of overall snaps. Do you know who was right behind him? A Louisiana transfer. It's not like we can't replace guys like Elijah Dotson. I'm sure he'll have success somewhere. I wish him the very best. Do I really care that Michigan lost him? No. If you'd ask me, do you want to keep him? I say, yeah, keep him around. I'm sure he'll develop. He could turn into a defensive back. He'll be serviceable. Yeah, that'd be great. But No panic. Jaden Mangham, same there. He would have gotten reps for Michigan. I think he would have played. He would have been serviceable, especially if Michigan had injuries and gotten down on their luck. He would have been in a lot, but nobody that you cannot replace pretty easily. And that's all we've got for the defense. I'm not telling you that there aren't going to be more. I'm sure there will. There's some more NFL guys we haven't gotten news on. Marlon Klein is going to the NFL. Don't know that he's necessarily an NFL tight end per se yet. Think he has, frankly, pretty awful ball skills. That being said, he's very athletic. He's strong. He's fast. He's going to test extremely well. I'm sure somebody will take a chance on him as a result. Overall, not a bad loss so far. A lot of people are talking about it like it's a portal exodus. For a coaching change, losing under 20 guys, that's nothing. Michigan has no sweat right now, especially if they come in and they get aggressive now that this staff is complete. Like I said, they're behind. You see these deals, these visits getting lined up right now. They're not getting lined up right now. They were lined up the last week of December. They were lined up by Christmas. They just weren't allowed to be public until now. Like, they didn't just suddenly get a visit lined up in one day. It doesn't happen that fast. These guys have been talking behind the scenes to agents, to their high school coaches, to their families. They can't talk to them directly. And for the most part, they really don't. But they've got this business going on behind the scenes. So Michigan adds Whittingham. They add Guilford. The staff is complete. What I want to see is, I know that we've been behind. And as a result, you're not hearing a lot of buzz around Michigan right now. You're hearing buzz around a few guys. I've heard North Texas wide receiver Wyatt Young. A lot of people seem to think Michigan can pull him. I have my doubts. His offensive-minded head coach is at Oklahoma State. His quarterback is at Oklahoma State now, just committed literally right before I started filming this video. And he's got a lot of connections there. And he knows he can have success in that offense with that quarterback. He'd be taking a little bit more of a risk to come to Michigan. I understand it's Michigan, it's Oklahoma State, but these kids don't view it that way. These kids view it as I want the most sure thing possible. I want the best situation for me, and I know it. And he knows what he's getting out of Oklahoma State, and I wouldn't blame him if he goes there. He's taking a visit. I saw he's taking a visit to an SEC school as well, and then Michigan. If he goes anywhere, it will be Oklahoma State or Michigan, in my opinion. Not if, but when. The Utah guys are the other people you'll hear about. Tal Johnson, the safety. I think he's a fantastic player. He can also play some corner. I haven't seen anybody really talk about that. He can play corner. He can play safety. If you need somebody to go outside and guard a bigger body wide receiver, he can do that. Smith Snowden, also very versatile. That's the thing I really like about the Utah guys. They can kind of play everywhere. I do view Snowden as a nickel, and I think he can come in and be a really high-level player. I think he would be an impact player for Michigan. He reminds me of, I said this on TikTok, he reminds me of A.J. Halsey at LSU coming in and making that type of impact. And he kind of muddies things up in terms of positions, though, because I really like TJ Metcalf, and I think he's coming back. He's been fantastic in the nickel role, in my opinion. He can also play safety at a really high level. If you're bringing in Tao, you've got Brandon Hillman. You've got, I think, Mason Curtis so far. You've got I already said Brandon Hillman, Rod Moore. You've got all these guys coming back at safety. I know for a fact I'm still forgetting someone. It's going to get a little bit muddy in terms of rotation and playing guys, and I'm curious to see how that plays out, how aggressive or maybe how much they're willing to spend in the defensive back room to improve. But I do like Smith Snowden, and I do like Tal Johnson. I think both those guys come. John Henry Daly, from what I've heard, 11 and a half sacks last year, didn't even play a full year. Very physical, very dominant. If I had to give you a comp for him, I would say he's a more refined Caden Curry. He might not have the play strength of Caden Curry, but he's a better true pass rusher and he's a better finisher. So that's what I think we would get out of him. I think he could be a very productive player, assuming that he was fully healthy by the season. That's all the buzz that I've heard. The Utah guys, a little BYU buzz, nothing set in stone, no visits, no anything like that. The North Texas wide receiver, Wyatt Young, I've heard complete radio silence outside of Michigan otherwise. So that's what I want to look forward to the next couple of days. Is Michigan going to start making a splash? Is Michigan going to start bringing in these guys who can make a difference, who can start for Michigan, who can fill the void of the guys that have left in the portal, the guys that have left to the draft? Because right now, I see why Michigan fans are a little bit panicked. If you're just looking at the situation, you're hearing all the buzz about all these people going all these places. It's always been frustrating to me, really, because I'm a college football like sicko. I watch the Group of Five games. I watch the Big 12 and ACC games that nobody cares about between the like middle of the pack teams. They've got some dudes, man. They've got some dudes that are going to be difference makers. And teams like Michigan, and I see Ohio State fans complaining as well, they don't care. They don't care. They don't acknowledge them. It has never made any sense to me. They go to Indiana, they go to Texas Tech, and they're impact players. They're all Americans. They're all conference. And Ohio State and Michigan have this like ego, like they're above it. I've never understood it. Michigan's never been overly aggressive in the portal. I understand you've got this budget. You like to be predictable. High school players are a little bit more predictable in terms of like where they're going to go, if you're going to be able to keep them, how they're not how they're going to perform, but just in terms of like controlling your spending, they're more predictable. So I see why you would want to go that route, but at the same time, you have to look around at the landscape of college football and see what's going on. You can see teams like Georgia, even teams like Ohio State fading a little bit this year compared to teams that just attack the portal. Compared to teams like Oregon, who recruits high school really well also. Teams like Ole Miss, teams like Indiana, teams like Miami, teams that are hyper aggressive in the portal are the best teams in the country right now, and I don't think that's an accident. So if I had one piece of advice to Kyle Whittingham, to Michigan, I know you like your NFL structure of your GM. I know you like having your little pretend salary cap and all that, but I would say attack the portal. Spend a little bit more than you'd like. Get a little bit uncomfortable. That could be the difference. It's been the difference for a lot of teams this year, and quite frankly, it's been the difference for Michigan. Not being willing to attack at wide receiver in the portal. Saying like, oh, it's Skyler Bell or bust. Not that Skyler Bell is not a fantastic player, but we let the kid walk back to UConn. Good God. Let that sink in. We let him walk back to UConn. He should have won the Blitnikoff. He had the triple. He almost had the triple crown in the bag. So I think that just summarizes like where Michigan's been at in the portal. They need to be ultra aggressive. 4 offensive linemen, especially 4 defensive linemen, really defensive linemen. That's the biggest position of need. But overall, it's just playmakers. If you see a guy that can make a difference, go get one, man. Like it's Michigan, and you're settling. I don't know how many times you guys are going to hear me say this. There can't be settling at Michigan. That's how you end up 9-3 every year. That's how you end up 8-4 every year. That's how you end up getting passed by Indiana, getting passed by Ole Miss, getting passed by Oregon, because they get guys in place, coaches, administration in place who will not settle. And that is the difference. If you think you can improve at a position, you go improve at that position. You have to spend smart. I know that, but you also have to blend it with being aggressive. Lately, Michigan has not been aggressive enough in the portal. They're the type of team that recruits high school well, but not in a way where you just don't go to the portal. They're not recruiting it the way that Georgia is or Ohio State is. And they're losing guys at a higher rate. They're not retaining them the way that Ohio State is. You've got to be aggressive in the portal. That will be the difference if you're Michigan. Those are my thoughts on what I've seen so far from Michigan, from the portal cycle. If I hear more news, I'll come straight back to you guys. I'm sure that I will. It's just been an absolute crazy day, crazy couple days, honestly, for Michigan, for the portal. So let me hear your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, sub to the channel. I'll be back as soon as something crazy happens, which will probably be tomorrow.